Apple has succeeded in pressuring Patreon to enforce its in-app purchase system by taking 30% of creators' revenue, forcing creators to either raise prices or absorb the fee. This move highlights Apple's uneven application of App Store rules previously criticized in antitrust cases. Patreon, now coerced into compliance, must transition all creators by 2025, despite the company's preference for a more gradual approach. Creators can avoid fees by directing subscribers to non-iOS platforms, but Apple's strong-arm tactics still put them in a tough spot. That and many, many more stories tonight from my brand new rebuilt studio. You're listening to Geek News Central, episode 1760, coming to this Monday, August 12th. I'm your host, Todd Cochran. A big shout out to our primary sponsor at GoDaddy.com. Grab their deals at geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. Of course, to all of our awesome listeners, you're the real MVPs. Contribute your time, talent, or treasure at geeknewscentral.com/insider by becoming a GNC insider. We're live and lit with modern podcast apps from podcastapps.com. Join our value for value movement by downloading and using a modern podcast app. Of course, dive into our digital hub at Geek News Central. Don't forget to check out our partner shows, all linked at the top of the website. Get on board and don't forget to follow or subscribe via your favorite modern podcast app. Again, sign up for the newsletter while you're at it, while you're on the website. That'd be a great way to stay connected. Of course, you can join the chat at geeknews.chat. And if you have feedback on the show, it's very, very simple. geeknews@gmail.com, or catch me on X at Geek News. Of course, you can find me on Facebook. And of course, we want to thank our longtime sponsor, GoDaddy, the longest running continuous sponsor of a podcast. This is where savings begin, ladies and gentlemen. Get over to geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. There you can lock in these savings, whether it be $11.99 for a brand new domain name, $6.99 a month economy hosting with a free domain, professional email, and an SL certificate for the first year, or $12.99 a month to manage WordPress hosting. Again, a free domain, professional email, and an SL certificate for the first year. If that's not good enough, definitely try out a free trial of GoDaddy Website Builder, your choice of personal business or business plus plans. That's a 1-month free trial. I want to thank GoDaddy again for being a longtime sponsor here at the Geek News Central podcast. Well, here we are. I'm hoping everything is working. I think it might be. And I'm still getting my position correct where I'm supposed to be in front of the camera. I have some more modifications coming to the studio, but I'm going to tell you, it doesn't look a lot different, does it, from what it looked like before? There are subtle changes. One being, obviously, the background is different. The complete background. Stuff that's up there looks about the same. Camera angles are just a little bit different. As a matter of fact, there's more distance from the camera to the monitor here. And it isn't exactly what I wanted, but it's very, very, very close. And we've got multiple views, of course. We've got another camera angle. I do not like this camera angle. This is obviously in the way. So we're going to figure out what to do there. And then a brand new camera angle. Well, see, right here, you can see where I didn't check the camera to begin with. You can still see the pine. There we go. Now you can't. Magically, it disappears. So this is a different camera angle here that, again, you can see a light there that, we're trying to hide. But in order to get everything lit, believe it or not, it required more lights. 2 more lights to get everything the way I wanted it. Right here, for those of you watching, that's still not dialed in completely. It's a little bit brighter than it should be. So what I may do is change out that tile to a different color. Same with that one there. There's just a few things here and there that I'm not completely satisfied with, but overall, I'm pretty close to being exactly how I want it. I was up last night to about 10 p.m., really kind of trying to get stuff dialed in. So I'd love to hear your comments. How does the audio sound? Does it sound too loud? Does it sound like it's about right? For those of you that are listening live, is it blowing you out? Is it crackling? Anything like that? One thing that I had to do was install blackout curtains. So currently, no lights are on in the loft. The blackout curtains are engaged. That's all done. A little bit of cooling challenges because one of the main registers is right behind the monitors down in a hole there. So a little bit of that. Another thing too is the new white cabinet back here, highly reflective, highly reflective. Compared to before, the background was dark and there wasn't a reflection from the cabinet. Still have some dark spots, even though I've lit up everything the best I can. There's a line right there. It just can't overcome the downward lights to fill. You can see on those of you watching, you can see on this side it overcome, but it did not overcome there. So we got a solution coming for that. I am going to be making a change though, because I have a monitor behind me that I can see what's going on with the show. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to do a picture in picture with this thing where I can actually see the monitor that's here, because the angle's different now and I'm looking further down. For some reason, just the way the thing's set up, it just looks like I'm looking down into a hole when I'm on a monitor. So I'm just going to try to get some of that fixed yet. But other than that, the studio is as much dialed in as I want it to be at this point. And I'm pretty happy to be back with my regular workflow versus using StreamYard. And so, again, just some tweaks. And this will be done. And it will be back to just kind of, for me, a comfortable production scheme. Now, what else has been happening here is I had to transform the second area of my loft to turn it really into an office. So I had kind of a makeshift L desk. That all went down, and actually I got that sold on Facebook Marketplace this weekend. I transferred my standing desk back over here, so I have my standing desk. I still have some furniture that I need to get up here, filing cabinets and stuff like that I just can't manhandle until I get some more help. But then what I did was I used a divider that I had here that was held over from the old Blueberry office to put behind the standing desk so that it just doesn't look like I'm in a kitchen. You know, you don't see like you're not in some house, or I have to go fuzzy screen. But I have an absolute metric ton of stuff to sell. And one of the things that continues here is a significant consideration on bandwidth. I'm absolutely worried about the bandwidth situation, largely because, there we go. So, again, little things here. Turn down the monitor volume, Todd. And so worried about the bandwidth situation. When it's good weather, I think Starlink is going to be fine. But then when it's not, that's when it's going to get weird. So today is a nice day, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, what do you guys think? For those of you watching the show, what do you think? Now, just to give you a little bit of an orientation, what was normally in the edit room is literally now 5 feet away from me. Instead of 20 feet down the hallway, I have the computer that I do the editing sitting right next to me. And it actually captures the video capture of the show. So that's in place. And what else? I think that's about it. The layout in front of me is very, very similar. Actually, it's nicer on the left where I can watch the audio stream. I've got the ability to now watch comments come into the show a little easier. So, if you make comments, I'll definitely see both the Facebook and YouTube comments that come in, and definitely want to hear your feedback. But it's definitely a Red Bull night. So that kind of catches you up on where we are and how things are going to go. 2 shows this week on normal. And then I go to Podcast Movement in Washington, D.C. the following week. So no shows next week, but 2 shows this week. And then we'll be back in the studio for a number of shows. I have a number of events to go to. So over the next 8 to 9 weeks, basically about 8 weeks. So before I do any more extensive travel, at least 2 months here in the studio, it kind of gives you a rundown of where we're going. But it's nice to... I'm adapting. I will say this. I told you guys before, working away from the office can be a challenge. So I'm adapting to that, and I'm doing pretty good. So, but you guys would have never really noticed too much if I'd never said anything. And the only thing that would change was the background. You probably would have thought, heck, he's just back in the old studio. But I just reused existing furniture, made a few minor changes here. But my big challenge here is storage. I've got so much stuff in the storage unit still. That's why I'm going to have a massive amount of stuff to sell. That's for sure. All right. If you got comments on today's show, don't forget geeknews@gmail.com. Oops. Hit the wrong button. Geeknews@gmail.com. Geeknews@gmail.com. And let's go ahead and get into the stack here. As I say, this Patreon thing with Apple is just ridiculous. And Apple says Patreon must switch to its billing system, or it's going to be risk removal from the App Store. And, Patreon really kind of did this in part on themselves. And so now what's going to happen here is the company wanted a 16-month migration process. It is beginning a 16-month migration process. And Patreon has informed creators of switching them over to subscription billing as of November 2024, but they will decide whether to price their membership at a higher fee to cover Apple's commission or decide if they want to absorb the fee themselves. In addition, creators can opt to delay the migration in their Patreon settings till November 2025. However, if their creators choose a later option, they won't be able to offer membership in the iOS app until they adopt Apple's iOS in-app purchase system, as Apple's rules will apply as of November. So 30% is what you're going to give up. If you give someone $10, Apple's going to get 3 of that. Isn't that some bullshit? To be honest with you, isn't that just absolutely ridiculous that you're going to have to give Apple 30% if people are connecting through iOS? If I was a Patreon user, I would be like, please go to the website. Support me via the website. Or better yet, why don't you just come over to my own website and set up a reoccurring PayPal subscription? Do it that way instead. Wow. So millions of dollars that creators are getting right now are going to go to Apple. And it's just horrible, in my opinion. It's one of the reasons why I never, ever set up a Patreon system. It's one of the reasons. I just didn't trust the platform to be able to do good over the long term. So, again, you build your platform on someone else's platform, and guess what? You pay the price if there is a change. It's really, really sad. According to CNET, 2.9 billion people may have been compromised in a national public data breach. This is crazy. So Cash App, customers are possibly eligible for payout. And there is a $2,500 settlement claim that you can do online. If you've used Cash App in the past 6 years, you could be part of the proposed $15 million class action settlement. As part of the proposed $15 million class action settlement, you may be eligible, the word is may, if you've used a Cash App mobile payment service to transfer money in the last 6 years. I've done that. Transferred in, transferred out. The proposed settlement claims Cash App and its parent company, Block, failed to take proper care to prevent unauthorized access to user accounts. Plaintiffs' lawsuit alleged that Block and Cash App were negligent when a former Cash App investing employee accessed account data without permission when an unauthorized user accessed certain Cash App accounts in 2023 using recycled phone numbers that were linked to the account. So again, you have to be a current or former Cash App or Cash App investing user, and your personal information, your Cash App account, your Cash App invest account was accessed or obtained without your authorization. You had unauthorized or fraudulent withdrawals or transfer of funds to or from your account, and you had a deficiency in the resolution of an error. So basically, you had to have been defrauded. So $2,500 and $25 per hour reimbursement of lost time for up to 3 hours. So again, you have to file the claim online. Oh, you have to, the form is online. You have to fill it out, and then you have to mail it. So again, if you were affected by this, read the rules very, very carefully. Link will be up in the show notes for you to check out. In a total twist of irony, the CrowdStrike president has been cheered after accepting an epic fail Pawnee Award. Michael Santana's hopes trophy will remind staff that failure is unacceptable. DEF CON's CrowdStrike president, at DEF CON, CrowdStrike's president received accommodation from DEF CON attendees after accepting the Pawnee Award for most epic fail following its recent global IT outage. The award recipient was really never in doubt. The list of nominations for each Pawnee was released 5 days after the incident began, and such, there could only ever be one winner of this in 2024. CrowdStrike has quite rightly attracted a flood of criticism for its role in what is likely to be the IT event of the year. And that is really, truly the understatement of the day. Was your company affected by CrowdStrike? I haven't heard from you folks. And again, if you're watching online today, let us know how the audio sounds. Are we coming in loud and clear? Are we muffled? Is it quiet? Is it too loud? Let us know if you're watching online today. This is the first rollout of the stream. Let us know how the stream looks. Make sure that it looks nice and clear. It's not stuttering. Love to hear your feedback on that. The former President Trump campaign cites Iran election phishing claim as evidence leaked docs were stolen. So basically, they've been claimed to have been the victim of cyber attack. And Trump campaign spokesman Stephen Young told Politico documents were obtained illegally from foreign sources hostile to the United States as part of a plan to interfere in the forthcoming U.S. elections. He mentioned a Microsoft report published last week that claims that an Iranian crew sent a spear phishing email to a high-ranking official of a presidential campaign using a compromised email account of a former senior advisor. And this came partly from Microsoft validating that. Apparently, those documents have now made it to WikiLeaks or someplace. I saw something just before we went on the air. So all those documents will be available for people to peruse all the political context. So again, we'll see. We'll see if these documents are published and what the word on the street is after that. Hey, Nextdoor is expanding. Has an expanded AI wants to help you sell your stuff before moving. It's the busiest time of the year for moving, and the neighborhood social media app is expanding its AI assistant to help you avoid moving headaches. One of the Nextdoor's biggest features is its location-based for sale and free section, which operates similar to Facebook Marketplace. We did not have a Nextdoor neighborhood. I set one up It's never been accessed. But the upgraded AI assistant will now help you create the ideal sales listing and cut down time spent perfecting each detail on the post. I think Facebook Marketplace is easy. I had the desk table that I put on Facebook Marketplace sold almost immediately, 5 or 6 people. And of course, I kind of priced it to move as well. $149 or maybe $200 table, $50. And no one squabbled. They just came and got it, drove for an hour and away to come get it. So I'm sure I'm going to be able to get rid of some stuff, but some stuff I'm going to give to my daughter here in town. I hope going to see some upgrades for her and a desk. And I have another standing desk that I use for years at the office that's quite expensive, and I'll never get any money worth out of it. So better to give it to a family member that will have some love and appreciation for it. So I'm going to do some of that, including some of my furniture, some of my kitchen stuff. I have duplicates now of I don't need because I had a kitchen in the old office. So again, I think Facebook Marketplace is good, but if you're on next door and you're a fan, you can try that out. YouTube is trying to save your roommates from late night binges. I had a bit of a late night binge on YouTube last night myself. The platform is trying out a new sleep timer. And what you need to know is Dub Sleeper Timer. It works similar to what we've seen on YouTube Music app. It allows users to pause playback for a certain period of time, ranging from 10 minutes to 1 hour. A sleep timer in an app is a lifesaver, especially for media apps. While plenty of music apps already have the feature, Google's now experimenting with it on YouTube. In other words, you don't want to have it just play all night, 10 minutes and shut off. So the feature is currently available for YouTube Premium subscriber and works similar to what you've seen on YouTube Music app. Users can select any random video on YouTube, hit play, and head to the little settings icon where they now can find the new sleeper timer option. I actually stayed up to, 12:30, 12:45, watching a young man basically start his wilderness adventure in Alaska. A lot of people are buying land in Alaska. I don't know how much it costs, but he got 40 acres. I was like, my goodness, what does 40 acres in Alaska cost? Still can't be cheap, even it's out in the middle of nowhere. Does anybody know? Millions of AMD CPUs are vulnerable to hacks and some won't get patched. A new security flaw discovered in AMD processors going back to 2006 leave them exposed to pre-boot code attacks. This latest issue is pretty big, so big in fact that it extends back through generations. You basically have to throw your computer away. The sync close flaw allows an affected PC to run an unchecked code on an AMD Ryzen processor in the system management mode, bypassing checks in Windows and even most BIOS and UEFI setups. The issue was discovered by researchers from IO Active and shown off at DEF CON. Once compromised, these systems can be infected with bootkits and run circles around conventional security tools, including antivirus suites and Windows' own built-in defenses. It could even be able to remain on a PC after a completely fresh operating system install. AMD said that it had been alerted to the security flaw and has already released mitigation options for Ryzen-based PCs, industrial data center machines, and the embedded AMD hardware will be updated soon. So AMD's full list of products affected by the sync close vulnerability includes chips as old as the Ryzen 3000 series from 2019. All of these were updated to close the vulnerability. But that lists at odds with the reports issued to Wired, which says the vulnerability exists in chips going all the way back to 2006. And those computers or machines, which probably are mostly in industry, likely cannot be updated. Hey, I want to thank our insiders here. Absolute great appreciation to James Fletcher on his $2 ongoing donation, and Nigel Cottrell on his $25 monthly contribution as well. On one of our super Ohanas, we definitely appreciate that very much. We had a number of you streaming sats. Pestmerk was streaming sats from the last show at 30 sats a minute. Definitely appreciate that. We also had, that one came in for the new media show. So But again, well, thank you for the streaming sats. Hey, oh, Darren Schwartz as well was streaming 50 sats a minute to the show. We definitely appreciate both of you for streaming live. Hey, if you want to be involved and you want to join this new evolution, and we're starting some journeys here to make it easier on value for value to participate within apps, but you don't have to worry about an app. If you love the value you're getting for the show, and if I'm providing information that's informational, that you're useful, cause great conversations at the dinner table or at the water cooler or during Zoom meetings or wherever it may be, consider that PayPal donation of $2, $5, $10, $15, $20, or $25 a month, or that one-time annual donation is greatly appreciated. For those of you who consider becoming insiders, we want you to become an insider. You can contribute time and talent as well. So if you have some time and you'd like to contribute to the show, got plenty of little odd jobs that can be done on the time front. Everything from doing clips. I'll make you a sub-user on my Blueberry account. You'll be able to go in and create social production, whatever you want to do here. We've got some availability for you to contribute your time and talent and help the show grow that way. So we definitely appreciate those of you that consider it becoming a Geek News Central insider. An attacker has stolen the personal data of 200,000 people with links to an Arizona tech school. Nearly 50 different data points were accessed by cybercrime. So the tech school will send letters to 208,717 current and former students, staff, and parents. The East Valley Institute of Technology said a cyber incident involved unauthorized access to the network, which was on January 9th. It was the cause of the data theft. Although EVIT didn't specifically specify exactly what type of attack, this was from Lockbit, the ransomware group claims. So be aware of that. Thousands of Google Chrome browsers are also at risk from a damaging attack. Malicious websites are presenting Trojans as useful and free software. A report from Reason Labs outlined how the campaign has so far hit around 300,000 Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge users by creating websites offering free software like the likes of Roblox, FPS Unlocker, YouTube, VLC Media Player, Steam, or KeyPass. Victims who navigate these websites and download the fake software instead get a Trojan malware that's been around since 2021. So I love Malwarebytes. It's a great product. Great way to keep your machine protected. I run Norton Antivirus even on my Macs. So definitely check those products out. Microsoft unveils potentially serious Office security flaw, but you probably should be safe. Flaw is described as an information disclosure weakness and is tracked. It affects both 32 and 64-bit versions of the product, including Office 2016, 2019, Office LTSE 2021, and Microsoft 365 apps for enterprise. Microsoft argues the threat actors most likely won't seek to exploit the flaw since it requires heavy interaction from the victim side and mainly affects older versions of Office not in use by many users today. So again, these attack vectors continue to happen. One of the weirdest ones now is smart vacuums and mowers can be hacked to spy on you. Security research discovered several vulnerabilities in EcoVac smart vacuums and lawnmowers. In a presentation at DEF CON, security research showed that it's possible for malicious actors to exploit the smart vacuums and mowers to secretly hack their microphone and cameras. So they can watch the vacuum, drive around, and while it's off, listen at the same time. According to the research, the main vulnerability is that EcoVac's robot allow any smartphone owner to connect. Hackers could theoretically take control of robots from a distance of up to 425 feet away, and once that's done, the hackers could possibly connect the robots from even greater distance. Now, we used to have an EcoVac in our office in Columbus. It was a pretty bad, it was an early version of the vac, not that great, to be honest with you. And so that would have immediately got the door if we still had the office there for sure, because we were in a commercial area. Whereas here, if I had one of those, well, my closest neighbor is maybe a little farther than 400 feet, but I don't think they're going to be hacking my vacuum. I don't have one, though. The cheapest Tesla Cybertruck is now $99,990. The 60K model has been canceled. So $99,990 is the cost of the cheapest Cybertruck. Wow. Wow. Now, the Ford vehicles are pretty expensive as well. The electric ones get right up there in that price range. But yeah, it just shows you that, Tesla is probably having a challenge move these at $100,000 for the current interest rates. Oh my goodness. Now, not surprising to me at all, U.S. utilities are poised to ride data center demand wave. And here's what it boils down to. My daughter, Natalie, her husband, works in building data centers, and they live in the Wachanachi area in Washington. And he basically said, yeah, we've got work for 20 years. We're going to be busy because the demand for data centers are off the chart. And of course, they have some of the cheapest electricity because of a dam there and hydroelectric. So I thought, wow, of course, they're going to be trying to suck up that cheap electricity. But U.S. electric utilities are sounding bullish on demand from data centers powering the AI boom after striking several supply deals during the second quarter, reinforcing market expectations sales growth through the year. Top utilities, including America Electric Power and NextEra Energy, signed contracts in the recently concluded quarter, while others highlighted interest from tech companies. We started to get some clarity about data center opportunities. Numbers are staggering, said Timothy Winter, portfolio manager at Gabriel Funds. As of March 31st, it owns stake in 6 utility firms, including PG&E, NextEra Energy, and AES Corp. U.S. utilities since the start of the year have raised their 2030 guidance of cumulative data center electricity demand by 50%. The economic development pipeline over the period we've shared through 2028, data centers represent about 25% of the pipeline. As we get out to 2030 and beyond, that 25% grows, Duke Energy CEO Lynn Good. Utilities could see some meaningful sales growth. For the full year, utilities earnings are missed. So the question is, do they have enough capacity? You can build a data center a lot faster than you can build an electric generation plant, especially with the people raising their nose at coal and everything else. Are they going to be able to have enough demand to service these? Some of these data centers talking about needing a nuclear power plant, that much power. And of course, we're not building nuclear power plants right now. I don't know. Still don't understand why we don't. It seems to be like the biggest bang for the buck, but everyone doesn't want nuclear in their backyard. I understand that. But it is a question. This is a weird one. YouTube Music may who uses YouTube Music? YouTube Music may soon let you broadcast your jams with a shareable personal radio. In other words, a digital radio. On the space front, a massive asteroid to rush past Earth today. This asteroid 2024 ON2, 37 feet diameter, passed about 4.18 million miles away. And, of course, no immediate threat. At the same time, Mars and Jupiter have gotten chummy in the night sky. They won't get this close again until 2033. So this is an alignment situation where, they basically are aligned correctly. They'll be so close Wednesday, at least from our perspective, that just a sliver of a moon could fit between them. In reality, our solar system biggest planets' dim or reddish neighbor will be 350 million miles apart, but just the alignment is right because they're on the plane. Meanwhile, SpaceX has launched 2 satellites for Arctic broadband mission. So these 2 communications satellites for Norway's Arctic satellite broadband mission, ASBM, lifted off at 10:02 p.m. Eastern from Vandenberg Space Force in California. The ASBM satellites built by Northrop Grumman, luckily not Boeing, are designed to provide broadband communication services over the North Pole and high-altitude areas. And they had bunch of mini-sats, too, and some U.S. military enhanced polar systems for secure communications, I guess. So anyway, link will be up, of course, in the show notes for all this. And a little more space news. A NASA watchdog, speaking of Boeing, finds quality control problems with Boeing's SLS work. So, they're still stuck on the International Space Station. Meanwhile, the SLS is being built by Boeing, and, they're saying that the work is crazy shoddy. In a report released August 8th, NASA's Office of Inspector General said there were significant issues with Boeing's work on Block 1B version of SLS being done at McCloud Assembly Facility in New Orleans, which attributed to a lack of an acceptable quality management system and trained workforce. Now, let me explain something to you, because I got a little experience here. Let me take a little shot of Red Bull. When you have a big even a small contract, when we had Navy contracts with a company to build airplanes, there's always an on-site government rep. In our case, there was two. I was the contract rep, basically going to the airplane, checking on progress of work, making sure stuff was done, making sure wiring was I was the government. The company had a QA. I was the government QA and oversight, contract control. And I would only stay when I would go out to Waco for 30 days, because if you stayed longer than that, you kind of develop a blindness for issues. It's kind of a natural thing. So we'd rotate people out every 30 days. And we would inspect. Now, we weren't the government inspectors. We were the contractual inspectors. And making sure that the work was to be done at the level of quality that we want. And every day, I walked through the airplanes. I noted my issues. And usually there would be workers in there. I'd call things out on the spot, and they would fix it immediately. And this was not space grade, but it was the same concept, making sure power lines are separated from RF and all these different things that have to go on to be aviation ready, to be able to go run down a runway and take off in an airplane and it not crash, including stuff with structural. It run the whole gamut. I would have to sign off on any small deviation or change, and then it would have to go through a QA process. But there was also an official government inspectors on site. They were off in another building, and they would come through, and they would do their own quality assurance inspection as we were working in stages. As a section of work would come in, the government rep would come in, they would inspect, they would look for foreign objects, basically screws, dirt, dust, leftover materials, or whatever. They would look at the connection types. Everything would be spec'd, and they would do a inspection. Now, not only that, it was staged, multiple stages of inspections going on continuously during the build, down to the final point where the aircraft build was completely done, and we're ready to put boxes in. And basically, the government rep would be there again. And there would already have been, we'd already checked all the cable points. There had already been testing to make sure everything was point A to point B from one terminal to the next. All of those checks were done not only by the company, but done by the government representative, which was me and a team of people who I'd have there by that time. And then the government rep would come in and do the final inspection. And usually, after that was all done, and we got all the boxes back in the airplane and turned everything back on and see if everything worked, which was another extensive, maybe a month or 6 weeks of testing, we would find, even then, we would find a dozen, 20, 30 issues, maybe 100 issues. But the corporation was still there. Their techs were there, and they would fix something on the spot. Say, hey, I got something missing in this ear. I can't hear what I'm supposed to hear here, or I don't see something there, or something's not turning the way it's supposed to, or this switch isn't doing, whatever it may be. And they would fix it on the spot. And then we would get to a point where we would decide as the government that we are ready to accept the aircraft. This is after months. This is like maybe 3 months from when the build stopped. So when there is a Office of Inspector General saying there's significant issues with Boeing's work, I'm baffled. a lot. Because where was the government inspectors during this build? Where was the contract? Where was the NASA people at watching the build? This just doesn't happen in autonomy. I had an office inside the company's, right in the office in the company's building. I even had a separate internet connection off the corporate network so that there was no way there could be any cross-contamination. I don't get this. So NASA used the Defense Contracting Agency, like we all do, to monitor Boeing's work. According to DCMA officials, Boeing's process for addressing contractual non-compliance has been effective. Well, when guess what? If the government inspector came out and said this is wrong, if I had done the inspection and said it was good, and the government inspector said it was wrong, he overrode me. I couldn't override the final government inspector, which rarely ever happened. But we had multiple eyes on multiple processes, and we're talking, 150, smaller in scale, $150 million contract. And we would have meetings to break down corrective actions. We'd go excruciating long meetings. You sit down and you'd be like 3 hours. Okay, where are we at on this? Where are we on that? And each representative would say, okay, this is what we're working on to fix. We're going to have someone out there tomorrow, or that's scheduled for 2 weeks. The report found there were 71 corrective action requests issued by DCMA from September 21 to September 2023. That's an incredibly low number. A CAR identifies a specific contract nonconformity about the work. Of the 71, 24 were level 2 cars. Basically, level 1 means you can't go. I mean, it's like, it's a down. And they're ranked in different levels. Level 2 cars are more serious versions used for issues that cannot be corrected immediately, involve critical safety hardware. Sometimes stuff would require redesign. And then the government would either say, yes, we'll take it with the deficiency, knowing we're going to fix it later, or 2, no, this has to be fixed, and we're not leaving until it is. And if we said no, it has to be fixed, the contractor had to do the work. For me, at 71 is a low number. The number of cars in DMC says unusual high for a space flight program. Well, I guess you probably would expect perfection, right? So, again, was someone on site addressing stuff every day? And it's that big of a project, you may have 10 people that were looking at specific locations. And were those people being rotated out and not becoming assimilated? Well, Todd, what do you think here? Can we let this go? The guy that was fresh back after being out for 30 days, no, you have to fix that. The guy that's there 30 plus days, we'll let that one slide because you got friends with everyone. It's a process. And when it says there are quality control problems, it starts with the government. It starts with the government in saying, yes, we accept this. So, I don't, maybe none of you have heard this before, but we actually, when I was involved in this kind of work, we wanted our taxpayer dollars spent wisely. And we wanted the product to be right. Because guess what? As soon as that product was accepted by the government, we said, yes, we'll take it. And this is where I call it contractor speak, where they would come in and say, what do you think of this? I said, well, I'll have to look at that. I would never say, yes, go immediately, sign off. I'll have to look at that. And I would study it. If it was within my purview to say it's okay, I would sign off. Sometimes I would have to say, nope, it's not my purview. I'd have to send it to the engineer. And the engineer would take 2-3 days to get back to me, say, we need this, this isn't going to work. And that's where the over and above money comes in on contracts where people the contractors are trying to spend that over and above. My job was not to let them spend the over and above and stick with it. But sometimes you ran into something that was both parties' fault. just an oversight. So I just, when you say you got flaws, it's QA. The quality assurance people have failed. And if Boeing has bad quality assurance people, as been evident here recently with their spacecraft and airplane issues and manufacturing problems with doors, that, ladies and gentlemen, is scary. When QA came on the airplane and they had their notepad, this is what would happen when I was in the Navy. They'd come in with one of those big 11 by 13 notepads, and they would start in the front, and they would start writing as they found stuff. And my goal for the aircraft I was in charge of to get about that many, maybe 10. If you got beyond 10, then you had to answer the man. Why did you miss this? Why did you, and it would be sometimes be simple stuff. This needs a dab of paint, or this is chipped, or we have a Zeus fastener that's, one of 10 is loose. Little things like that, which ultimately is still an issue. It's legitimate. But when they would come out of an airplane and have 2 or 3 pages, oh, you may not have a job anymore. So QA was supposed to be the hammer. They're supposed to be the group you hate because they help hold people to account. And this is what should happen at Boeing. People should be held to account. It's a QA person going, yeah, it's okay. No, it's not. All right. You got more than you ever expected there, didn't you? Don't worry. Paid Apple Intelligence features are reportedly years away. Apple may not start charging its AI until at least 2027. All right, so we're not even going to talk about it. We're going to keep moving. This is the thing that everyone has experienced. Is your PC slowing down? Well, there's a ways to help so, especially if you're a Windows user. Lots of options here. This is a PC World article. Link will be up in the show notes. Some tips there to speed up the machine, get some more life out of it. Has anybody got one of those for a Mac? I'd love to know. Google Home app gets much needed overhaul, ready for a new smart thermostat. It's supposed to be easier and more accessible. So we will see. We've talked about this a little bit. There's some pictures out on it now. Link will be in the show notes on that. The United Nations, can they enforce anything? Is drawing up a new treaty to fight cybercrime. Member states of the UN have agreed on a draft convention text for new cybercrime treaty after 3 years of planning and preparation. The treaty will be the first global legally binding instrument of cybercrime and expected to be implemented by the UN General Assembly later in 2024. I bet you the Soviets vote against it. The treaty is primarily, or the Chinese, to address the new means and growth that technology has presented to criminals and their activity, including terrorism, drug traffic, and migrant smuggling, firearms traffic, and more. So we'll see. And there's been no review of this document, so we don't have anything to report on there. Do you use Google Authenticator? I use the Microsoft Authenticator, and I think I use both. They've added a new feature and a complete redesign. New features and material design has arrived for Google Authenticator for Android. I mostly use for Mac. So Google Authenticator 7.0. So keep an eye on it for those of you, the Android users, and let me know if you like it. According to folks over at Digital Trends, incredible phone charging tech will be revealed on August 14th with the Google Pixel 9. It will come with a newly reinvigorated Realme, which will introduce Realme 320-watt supersonic battery charging system. Forget what you think is fast charging, because this looks set to take it to a whole new level. 320 watts. So the charger in it rocketed 17% charge in just 35 seconds, while Realme supersonic charging almost certainly won't be able to keep up this pace for the entire charging cycle. It's highly likely to surpass the Redmi's 300-watt hypercharged charging system, which has been demonstrated, so can fully charge a 44 milliamp battery cell in about 5 minutes. That's impressive. I remember sometimes I look at the phone, like, oh my God, I've got like 6% left, and I would stick it on the charger, and even my S22 would jump to 10 or 12 pretty quickly, but after that, it would slow down. It must be a miracle. In the United States, 2 new electric trains in California could be assigned to the notorious laggard U.S. is finally ready to catch up. The rest of the world don't count on it. For the first time, California has 2 new all-electric commuter trains operating along a major corridor. The new trains are operated by Caltran. California Governor Gavin Newsom and House Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, former House Speaker, were on hand to take the inaugural ride. It's taken almost 20 years since the idea of first electric trains was first proposed. So where does it go from? Does it say? It didn't say from where to where. But anyway, if you live in California, you have an electric train to ride finally at last. Universal Music and Meta have announced expanded global agreement for AI monetization and more. This is interesting. Meta, home to Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and more, and Universal Music Group announced an expanded global multi-year agreement that will further evolve the creative and commercial opportunities for UMG artists and Universal Music Publishing Group songwriters across the Meta's network of platforms, including Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, Horizon, Threads, and for the first time, WhatsApp. So they want to ensure artists and songwriters are compensated fairly, and notes that companies will continue work to address, among other things, unauthorized AI-generated content. We will see. Twitter's former chairman has sued X over unpaid options and seeking $23 million in damages. According to the lawsuit, Kordestani left a typical high-paid job at Google to join a company previously known as Twitter on a significantly reduced salary of $50,000 in his first year, which was less than 0.4% of his prior earnings. Holy cow. That guy was making some money. 4 other Twitter executives were also jettisoned when Musk took over, and over $128 million in severance payments and unpaid stock options. At the time, Musk countered that the executive let go committed gross negligence and willful misconduct. So anyway, $23 million in damages. What job do you make that much money? I don't get it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you're using ChatGPT, don't develop feelings for the chatbot, because OpenAI is worried that ChatGPT 4.0 users are developing feelings for the chatbot. What is driving this? Writing in a recent system card blog post for GPT-4o, OpenAI outlined many of the risks associated with the new chat model. One of them is called anthropomorphization and emotional reliance, which involves attributing human-like behaviors and characteristics to non-human entities such as AI models. Well, you know what I do is I swear at the AI models, so that I guess I'm giving it human characteristics, but I can swear at an AI model. I can't swear at employees. So, okay. Yeah, I guess I'm not getting feelings, but be careful out there. Don't fall in love with ChatGPT 4.0. On a more sad note, former YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki, 56, has passed away as a result of cancer. The news was announced on Saturday by her husband of 26 years and Google colleague Dennis Troper. He called her impact on their family and the world immeasurable. The California native and dual citizen Poland worked for Intel as a marketing manager when she made the famously pivotal decision to rent her garage to fledgling startup founders named Larry Page and Sergey Brin. The duo are attempting to turn their senior project into a behemoth that would become Google. Alongside her washer and dryer, after many late nights sharing pizza and M&Ms with Brian and Paige, the Harvard, University of California, Santa Cruz, and UCLA grad become Google's 16th employee and its first marketing manager. The daring move, taken back in 1999, locked her career trajectory to a tale so typical of Silicon Valley. I thought they were crazy, but the one day something funny happened at work. I opened my browser to look something up, and it turned out that Google was down. There was an error page, and I sat there and I couldn't get my work done because I realized that no other search service could find the information. I'd become dependent of Google. She recalled in 2014 commencement address about the moment she realized she wanted to work for Google. It turned out finding the information matters. It means a lot to people, and accessing that information can instantly empower people across the globe. So this is where I want you guys to think about this woman. And even though her statements are pretty profound, considering where we are today and what potentially can be happening with AI search, and how profoundly terrifying it will be in surviving as a company or individual trying to build a brand. So Google, for everything we complain about it, has been a fantastic search engine for many, many years. So the question will be, will they be able to maintain that with AI changing everything? And only time will tell. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been my pleasure to bring you a show as we get ready to depart here. Geeknews@gmail.com, geeknews@gmail.com, at Geek News on Twitter. Don't forget, I need you as an insider. geeknewscentral.com/insider. Become a Geek News Central insider. If you haven't yet, and this, if you're one of a few of the listeners of the show that have yet to go over to GoDaddy, or check out my promo codes, geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. Go over there to the website at geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. Check out my deals. The economy is shaky. We do not know what is going to happen over the next year, regardless of who gets elected. There's true trouble ahead, in my personal opinion. And based upon things I see on a day-to-day basis, time to have a plan B. And a plan B could be your own website, your own e-commerce, getting started. Great way to do that is having a website with GoDaddy and setting up that e-commerce site. Think about it. geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. It's been my pleasure to bring you the show today. I've had plenty of people on and off the live chat. They haven't told me whether or not the stream was good, so I guess I will check it out myself. Back in the rebuilt studio. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say, those of you that watch the show. For those of you that haven't watched the show in recent times, it'll be available on Apple Podcasts and on podcast apps that support video. And, of course, we'll have it on the geeknewscentral.com website in the show notes. Don't forget, geeknewscentral.com is your launch point. And a new podcast app from podcastapps.com is the place to go to support open podcasting, not closed podcasting over at Spotify, and not on Apple Podcasts where they're not keeping up. On open podcasting and building new functionality into podcast apps. Again, it's been my pleasure to bring you the show tonight. Thank you so much. It's absolute pleasure to be back in basically my territory and used to doing things the way I have for many, many years, even though in front of me is my living space. All right, everyone, take care. We'll see you next time, and we'll see you on Thursday here at the Geek News Central podcast. Everyone, take care. We'll see you next time. Good night.